Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of The West Passage by Jared Pechaček. This is a fantasy novel coming out on July 16th, 2025 from Tor.com. I received this arc from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. I'm not really sure how to describe this book except to say that it reminded me of those super weird medieval paintings. You know, like this. The West Passage is an absolutely fascinating novel that I am still thinking about. What is it about? When the guardians of the West Passage died in her sleep, the women of Grey Tower fed her to the crows and went back to their chores. No successor was named as guardian, no one took up the fallen blade. The West Passage went unguarded. Now, snow blankets gray in the height of summer. Rats erupt from beneath the earth, fleeing that which comes. Crops fail, hunger looms, and none stand ready to face the beast, stirring beneath the poisoned soil. The fate of all who live in the palace hangs on narrow shoulders. The too young mother of Grey House sets out to fix the seasons. The unnamed apprentice of the deceased Grey Guardian goes to warn Black Tower. Both their paths cross the West Passage, the ancient byway of the beast. On their journeys, they will meet schoolteachers and beekeepers, miracles and monsters, and very, very big ladies. None can say if they'll reach their destination, but one thing is for sure, the world is about to change. The most important thing to know about this novel is that it does not hold your hand. Apparently, I'm not that big on physical affection from my books because I am not into hand-holding whatsoever when it comes to reading. So this was an absolute delight. You aren't entirely sure what's going on in this book, and that's part of the joy of it. You almost have to decipher or interpret the setting when you read it, but it strikes the right balance between interest and frustration. It's like when you're looking at a piece of art that's very cryptic. You can enjoy it for the craft, but you can also enjoy it for the little things that give it deeper meaning. And depending on what you're looking at, or what you're focusing on, or how you read it yourself, it can have a different kind of purpose or a different... what you're seeing, what you're reading can be different. While the description of everything else is very precise and easy to picture despite it being quite strange, a major part of this deciphering aspect of reading the book is that we're not entirely able to picture what the ladies look like. They're dripping with eldritch magic, so while we get descriptions, they're almost incomprehensible, which I think is the point. Like, not that the descriptions are incomprehensible, but like trying to picture what it's describing in your mind is almost too much for your brain to handle. The palace is ruled by these tyrants, but we're never really sure what they want or why they cling to their seats of power. They are inexplicable creatures operating on a higher plane. If this was the intent of how they were meant to be depicted, the author absolutely nailed it. The plot itself is a quest story where two characters leave from the same place taking different routes and have wildly different adventures. These two characters are Yarrow and Pell, a nun, basically, and an apprentice warrior, also basically, from the same cloister. What's really fantastic about this novel is how their stories remain almost 100% separate. Their journeys are somewhat parallel in that they both meet someone who becomes important to them, and both shake things up wherever they go because they are outsiders, but neither is even aware the other is on a quest. It's kind of funny in that way. It's also kind of very fun because you're like, are they going to cross? Is something that this one's doing going to affect what this one is doing? And then there's parts where they almost meet but they don't. You're just like, oh. The world building is what reminds me of those medieval paintings. The people in this book are so strange. They're mammalian or human or plant-like hybrids, or they're just kind of weird. There is odd magic that the citizens just accept, which seems in my mind to be kind of runoff from the Eldritch monster ladies. The entire thing takes place within the palace, this immense labyrinth-like city-sized stronghold with 5 major towers, and is connected by various paths, each of which with their own challenges. This is one of those books where the characters will open up an innocuous door and something completely bizarre and messed up is happening inside, and they just kind of like shut the door and move on. I love that kind of thing. You know, or there will be stuff mentioned, like Pell will mention that he's not sure why something was built this way. But rather than feel like an omission, it adds to the timeline of the story. It adds to kind of the depth and the history of the place because it suggests that this place has a history. This was done for some reason in the past, but We just don't know now because we're not in the past. It also made me, as the reader, try and question why it would be done that way as we, have more information than the characters given the two storylines and something else I'll mention later. So that was really, really fun. I found that completely enthralling. So much of this book seems random and just plain bizarre, but all the oddness felt like it was from a cohesive kind of place. It all suited the same world building. It all fit together. It's all very weird, but it's all very weird in the same way. That, I think, is very hard to pull off, and I think the author did a great job. The side characters were wonderful. While I liked Yarrow and Pell just fine, Fryn and Peregrine were my absolute favorites, followed by a foul-mouthed flower person on a train. I I wanted so much more of this person. They were so funny. The book mainly follows Yarrow and Pell, but it also has an omniscient narration that comes and goes and sometimes addresses the reader. We also get chapters here and there that are from historical texts, as well as a few that follow some random characters that the main characters never interact with. This gives the reader that ability to know what is going on, even if the characters do not, at least somewhat. And there's also kind of things like there was a book that someone finds at one point, and we actually get to see the person who illustrated it, but that has no bearing on the book in the timeline of Pell and Yarrow. But it was just kind of cool to kind of see that kind of history and why it was done that way, even though the characters didn't even consider it. It kind of makes you think about our own world and our own medieval time, because we don't have a great deal from that time period if you really think about it. Like, we have some tapestries and some books here and there, but really a lot of it is called it's called the Dark Ages because we don't have any information about a lot of it. There's so much that we're lacking, and this book seems to kind of approach that in a way kind of subtly, and I really thought that was really fascinating and interesting. The plot, as the story develops, has minor reveals of things you weren't even aware were mysteries, which was also a lot of fun. There was just so much going on in this book, and I really enjoyed it. Yet none of it competed for attention. None of it felt like it was taking away from the others. It was so well done. I can't really say much else about it because the last thing I want to do is ruin any of it for you. I think this is probably one of the books I would entirely suggest you go into without reading the jacket copy. Though I guess joke's on you. You heard me read it earlier, but maybe you've forgotten. Going in blind to this book was an absolute delight. I absolutely loved it because I requested this book months ago, and I just started reading it because I have a chart, a whiteboard chart, because I'm a dork, of what books to read next for my TBR. So I just started reading it, and I was just like, I don't know what this is, and I absolutely love it. So I highly recommend this book if you want something weird and absolutely surprising and emotional and satisfying. It blew me away. And the rest of the books this month are going to have to struggle really hard to get my favorite book of the month because this one's already really, really, really the top contender. So yeah, thank you so much to the publishers for the e-arc. I really, really appreciated it. And yes, please do check out this book, everybody, because it's super, super cool. Thanks.